always wanted to be a business owner. Had no idea what it took in the beginning. Had no idea. I just was kind of allured by the freedom and flexibility and potential financial freedom that you can get from operating businesses, and stepped into it and learned a lot and failed a lot, I would say, in my business journey. And I'm just always trying to grow in everything that I do and learn.
The Buzz on Better Business podcast, positioning your business as one that is trustworthy, is something that we all know is important. But what does it actually take to accomplish this? Join your BBB each month as we unveil the world of local accredited businesses who have it mastered and have positioned themselves as ethical leaders in our Acadiana marketplace. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Buzz on Better Business podcast, joined by Bo Killingsworth of Color Wheel. We're going to find out a little bit about Bo, where he's from. He went to school and, went to law school, which is something you might not know about. He's going to tell us a little bit about that. Played college football. We're going to talk a little bit about insurance. We don't get too deep into it, trust me. But we want to find out everything Color Wheel's doing and how his success and what he's going through in life has led him to where he's at today. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Buzz on Better Business podcast. You'll see a little bit upgraded set here, a little bit comfier chair than the wooden one we were in before. Thanks to Acadiana Cast, upgraded the set for us. We walked in and we're really excited about the setup. So we got some great content for you guys today. Thank you for joining us. Bo Killingsworth with us with Color Wheel. And we're going to find out about Bo and what Color Wheel really is. So, Bo, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Chris. I appreciate it, man.
Now, let me start out by saying I think you've got, you're kind of a podcast pro. So this will be nice and easy.
No, man, I'm far from a pro. I don't know how long it takes to become a pro, but I'm not one of them yet. I'm just kind of figuring it out.
Yeah, I hear you. They say, remain a student, right? No matter what it is, always learn, always try to improve. So, but yeah, I know you have tell us a little bit about, you have a podcast and stuff, right?
Yeah. Last year I started a podcast with a buddy of mine. He's since kind of moved on, so I'm kind of the only host with it. But yeah, I kind of needed to commit to digitizing my business and everything that I was doing, and start creating a personal brand for myself and for my companies. And it just seemed like a really good way to create a lot of video content and show people kind of what I'm about or who I am. And I desired to talk to people who were more advanced than me and maybe better at business or better at different things that I needed skills on. And it was a great way to connect with those people. It's really one of those only experiences you can do where you're doing so many things at once.
Right.
With 1 hour, you're talking to someone new, just like us. We don't have a tight relationship. We just met recently or got connected recently, but we'll develop a relationship. We'll talk about different things, and we'll always remember it. It's the bond that you get through the podcast is something that I didn't know beforehand. So it's a really, really net positive to my situation for sure.
Yeah, and I've noticed that as well.
Yeah.
It's a pretty intimate situation, actually, to sit with somebody and just ask questions. And when you first came in, you're like, so what's on the agenda? What are we covering? And I said, well, so the theory behind the Buzz on Better Business podcast with BBB was just to have transparent conversations with business owners, not necessarily about BBB, but just what it takes to be a trustworthy business. Obviously you being accredited means you're doing the right things out in the community. So what does it take to do that and really be in a raw sense of conversation, discussing that? And when we started this, our 8th or 9th episode now, when we started this, that was kind of the mission behind it. People want organic, raw, transparent conversations, not the fluffed up, graphic and fake picture and social media presence necessarily that they always say what you see people on social media and, don't think their life is exactly like they put on their Instagram. It's got some trials and tribulations like all of us. So, that's why this was created, just to talk to business owners here in Acadiana that are doing great things in the community. As we get into that, obviously we're going to talk about, your business.
Sure. Yeah.
But before we even get into that, I guess, who is Bo? Where's Bo from? And tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm from Lake Charles, Louisiana. I was born in Baton Rouge, so I've lived in Louisiana all my life, and I grew up in Lake Charles, and I played football at McNeese for a couple of years, the university in Lake Charles, and then I transferred to LSU to finish my undergraduate studies in finance, and then I went to law school at LSU.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, so I'm an attorney as well. I don't practice as much as my colleagues that I went to school with ordinarily. I'm more of a business guy, but that's kind of my background. I always wanted to be a business owner. Had no idea what it took in the beginning. Had no idea. I just was kind of allured by the freedom and flexibility and potential financial freedom that you can get from operating businesses, and stepped into it and learned a lot and failed a lot, I would say, in my business journey, and I'm just always trying to grow in everything that I do and learn. That's kind of me,
Yeah.
I try a lot of different things. I've
That's
tried
good.
a lot
That's
of
good.
different things, and I try to be as risk averse as I can. A lot of my people that I would talk to or you would ask about me would say I'm slightly conservative for a regular entrepreneur, a little bit. But over time, I've developed the ability to take bigger risks and swallow that and control that scenario for myself mentally, I guess.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much it. I mean, I got into construction after that flood in 2016. I was a financial advisor at the time. I didn't particularly like what I was doing, and I didn't feel like I was really helping that many people, and just kind of leaped out on faith and didn't really know anything about the business, but started a business in that environment, and that's where the failure started.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
That's where the business failures started, I would say.
Oh, so is that in 2016 with the floods?
Yeah. There was just a lot of work, and I had a buddy of mine that I went to college with, and he was interested in getting into construction, and he invited me to go down the journey with him. And I had separated from the firm that I was working at, and I was like, you know what? Why not? And I just tried it, and I had no experience in it, and it was tough. It was rough. Didn't really. It's not like one of those stories where you start a business and it's just everything's
falls into
coming
place,
together. It wasn't like that at all for a long, long time, and I'm still learning and still trying to grow and become a good operator in that space at least. But that's where it started, man. I didn't have any experience, and I'm one of those guys that did start a business with no experience. It's not a route that I would suggest for everyone. That's for sure.
Takes a little tenacity, I'd assume, right?
Yeah. And I didn't really, I knew that I had the capacity to
Right.
to handle it because I had drive, but I had no idea the mental aspect of everything that I was going to go through, and I still go through today.
Yeah, sure.
For sure. So if we're trying to be raw on this podcast, like you said,
man.
which is when you said that earlier, I was like, you know what? It's a great thing to say that, but it's hard to be raw and authentic sometimes in these settings,
Yeah,
even
absolutely.
with the podcast, because I try to get there too with the content that I do, and I have to actually really force myself to get down there because some of it's dark,
It's tough, man.
Owning a business is not.
Well, and that's exactly why we're doing this thing, man. We're
it
meeting
is,
business owners that they have so much more under the surface that you would have never known about. So
Yeah.
what I'm going to pick on first or highlight first is as a sports fanatic, I'd say, congrats on playing college football.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have done that. I played through high school, and
Yeah.
I was about this size, which you can equate to not playing college football,
Well,
and I wasn't fast. So
yeah.
with those two things, here we
We
are.
had both those in common, no doubt.
So that's awesome, man, that you were
Yeah.
able to play. So how was that experience?
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I was never like a football star or anything. I mean, I'm an athletic guy, but my father growing up had a huge impact. Both my parents did, but
Yeah, sure.
my father would have me read self-help books when I was younger, 13, 14, 15 years old. And I used to watch Rudy as a child, and it was my favorite movie, and I actually, my father got connected with a guy named Mike Robinson, and he was the strength coach at McNeese.
Okay.
When I was still in high school, and I was trying to, get as good as I could
Right.
to potentially play in college, And so I started working out at McNeese while I was in college, and with him, and he just let me work out with the team. He would give me private strength coach lessons and stuff, and he did all of it for free. It was crazy.
Wow, man.
He's an incredible guy. I hope he sees this, but yeah, I just started there, and I worked my body up to where I was reasonable, and just like Rudy, kind of, I just walked on. I sent him some footage, and they needed some extra scout team people, and that's basically what I did. I was a deep snapper. I played defensive line in college, in high school, and then I got into some other trades inside the team just to help the team out once I played. But I was just essentially a scout team guy. I would dress out for the games, but I didn't play in the games. So it was just, that was an experience for me where I had to get that under my belt. That's the reason I went there. Is
that's
because
awesome,
I
though,
wanted,
man. That's a great experience.
I wanted to try, and I was very small. I was slower than these guys. I mean, once you get to the college level, I mean, it's completely different.
Oh, it's absolutely, it's a different ball game, man. I actually.
Yeah.
A little known part of my story. So I graduated locally from Como High School, and graduated in 2003, and kind of really went through a little bit of what we'll call a internal crisis initially, because I've done nothing but play sports, track, football, baseball, all growing up, and decided, you know what, I'm gonna try to walk on UL's football team, and I went to one workout, and I was like,
it's different.
This is not. They don't have room for me.
It's
And everything's obviously gone great and stuff since then. I still try to stay pretty active. But anyway, to be able to play college football obviously is a feat. So congratulations on that. Now,
thank you.
Aside from that, going to law school, that's something a lot of people strive to do alone. So you don't always, I guess, find somebody that went to law school that owns and runs a business that has nothing to do with law school. So that's a unique combination.
Yeah.
So I guess tell us maybe how that has attributed to your success at this point.
Yeah. It is different for sure. But it is, you'd be surprised at how much you use with the knowledge you get in law school and in general business, obviously, but in what I do specifically, it helps me a lot. It certainly is not the key to success in operating business at all, really. But it definitely helps a lot, and it gives me the ability to at least understand things at a different level. That's definitely an advantage for me. But I tell people all the time that having that knowledge, that's one thing, but that has nothing to do with winning in business and surviving the ups and downs and what's really demanded out of you to become the person you need to become to be successful. It's very different. It's a completely different journey than what you learn in school, even if it's law school. But but what I do a lot of the time, if you look at some of my content that I put out, we talked about it earlier, that I put a lot of content about insurance out there because I have a lot of experience in it from many different sides. But what I do in the restoration world, in the insurance restoration world, from roofing, water mitigation, full restoration projects, things like that, pursuant to insurance claims. The insurance claims environment these days is so much different than it used to be. So essentially, guys like me, the construction is ultimately a small part of what we do in dealing with that. So the stuff that I know about insurance and the law helps me out a lot. And,
I would imagine that.
And the ability to control the business and understand the business and understand the leverage you may have or what insurance companies are supposed to do, what they should do, and what they fail to do a lot of the time,
So when you were growing up, did you know you wanted to go to law school? Or was that something that just kind of happened as you got into those adult years?
Well, my mother's an attorney. She was a career prosecutor in Lake Charles, so she would prosecute criminals, felony.
So some Law and Order stuff going on in the family.
Yeah,
good man. That's one of my favorite shows.
Oh yeah, she was like those DAs over there in Law and Order. SVU.
SVU, man. That's the one everybody watches.
She put those guys in the slammer for sure. She was hardcore, but she went to LSU Law School as well, and when I was in college, I didn't know what I was going to do. I liked numbers. I'm a numbers guy primarily, and and so that's why I studied finance and business. But I wanted to get a higher education. For some reason, I just wanted to do that. I didn't have any bright ideas as to what I was going to do. I wasn't blessed with the clarity of where I was going to go with my life early, and
I don't think too many of us were.
Yeah. So I wanted to go to grad school, and I could get an MBA, I could get a master's in finance, or I could go to law school. And after talking to many people, I determined that law school was the best fit for giving me the ability to do anything that I wanted to do, rather than just in the finance sector or just in some type of role at a business. But having that law degree gave me the ability to potentially practice law or do whatever.
So when you go to law school, do you pick what you want to go to law school for? I'm just kind of unfamiliar. Do you pick like criminal, civil, contract, or?
No, there's a specific curriculum you have to do, in your first year.
Sure.
Basically, everybody in their first year of law school is taking the same classes, whether you're at Harvard or whether you're at Southern or LSU here. You take the same classes, which is, criminal law, contracts, basic things.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
Tort law,
Yeah.
Civil procedure, which is basically the mechanics of how you navigate the justice system and the rules for that,
Sure.
filing deadlines, things like that, jurisdiction, all this kind of stuff. So, but after that, you can kind of navigate which classes you want to take and that you want to focus on. But it's not like, oh, I'm going to be a tax attorney, so this is the route I'm going. You don't choose.
I got you. Okay.
You don't choose a major, but you have some more flexibility later in the school system to kind of take different classes. I focused all my classes on business and,
Gotcha, okay.
and tax, business, stuff like this.
Tax, man. We might need to meet off there.
Oh, yeah.
Tax.
Yeah, ask
I don't know. This
somebody
last
else,
year
man.
is the first time ever we had to pay. Like we typically have
Oh,
enough
yeah.
deducted in our income taxes, and
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a tumultuous world out there. I think
yeah.
in insurance and taxes right now, tax world.
Yeah.
So
for sure, man. I don't know. It's crazy. The tax system is it's wild, man, because anybody who can understand it, you can get away with not paying any tax, as a high net worth individual if you structure everything right, But people who don't make that much money are paying a lot of taxes. It's
or
interesting. I'm
don't
not an
have maybe
advocate.
the knowledge of the tax system.
Exactly. Or the resources to align yourself with the people who do, or just the general knowledge that you need those people.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I'm not advocating for either side. I don't really care. I just want to get through it all, but
Get through it all. That's
but yeah, it's interesting.
yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
So 2016 flood, you said that's when the mistake started with the business.
Oh yeah.
So was that Color Wheel or was that a different business? Or
No.
how? Let's get into how that all transpired.
Yeah. The first construction company I started with my buddy was it was called Patriot Home Improvement. And I called it home improvement, or we did, because that was the license you got. It was the home improvement license in Louisiana.
That's right.
It allows you to get that license, and you can do residential projects up to $75,000 without having to take a construction test, which was key for me because I knew nothing about construction.
There you go. Okay.
So you could get that license and do residential projects as long as you had insurance, and home improvement seemed like the category of the business we were going to do, so that's what we called it. But I started that one. And then, made a lot of mistakes, barely survived, and ended up ultimately just growing in the construction space and learning from different people. And then fast forward, I aligned with some other contractors and filled some voids with some different other contractors. I got into the restoration space after Hurricane Laura. I wasn't really doing, although I was doing restoration construction, I didn't really know much about the insurance restoration part of it.
Okay.
And dealing with the insurance companies. And then I did some business development for some law firms after Hurricane Laura to supplement my income.
Sure.
But all the while, I still was operating and doing deals in the construction space, and ultimately, it led me to find some niches within the business to where I can help other larger roofing and restoration companies gain licenses in different spaces, kind of as a consultant, if you will, And I did that, and I kept learning about the business, and then it got to a point where I was doing projects with other companies for an extended period of time, and I was doing very well, but I wasn't doing anything in Lafayette. I wasn't doing any projects here. I had learned I'm basically I'm a different person than I was when I started that first company, and I wanted to go back to it and give it a full go.
Sure.
Right.
Okay.
With the knowledge that I had, and that's what this company is. This company really is a rebirth of sorts for me, with all of the knowledge that I've gained over the past, decade almost, in the space. So I'm in a different position to handle it. It's a very hard business, but that's what this is about, and it's going well, man. I have a good team around me, and I've identified some people that are really good people to work with that are working on my team, and we're just doing the best that we can to serve the people here rather than, out of state or anything like that.
Yeah. So some of what we will talk about is the contracting industry.
Yeah.
Some of the bad players out there, and
yeah.
how easy it is, especially when you start talking about insurance and different things for consumers to be taken advantage of by some of those bad companies. But before, I've got to cover this obvious question.
Yeah. Okay.
Color wheel.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody.
So where'd it come from, man?
Everybody asks.
Because I'm gonna be honest, I think paint.
Yeah, I know. Some of my distributors do. I went to a meeting the other day. It's like, oh, you're a painting company. I'm like, nah, there's nothing to do with that. But I got you. No, it's roofing, the roofing industry, which is something that I aim to penetrate. Right.
Okay. Right.
Roofing is a good business. I think that it aligns with my skills and my team. And I think it's a good business. That's why we market ourselves as a roofing company. We do other things as well. We have different capabilities, but roofing is a space that's highly competitive, and there's a lot of players.
Yeah.
And I knew that, what I wanted to present to people, I wanted something to be very modern, clean, and approachable by everyone. That's really what was on my mind. And I don't know how I came up with this, to be honest. I think I just kind of popped in my head, and I wanted the logo to have many different colors, not just one. I wanted it to be clean, different, and I just kind of came up with it, and I was like, you know what, it doesn't really mean much to me personally. It's not like I have some sort of like, oh, my nickname back in the day was Color Wheel, no, it's.
That'd have been cool too.
Nothing like that, but I just thought that it was a brand, because it's all about branding, and that's what I'm focused on, is creating a brand that creates an emotion with people, and I thought that as long as I served people the right way with the business, this would be something that they could attach to, and it would be just different enough to elicit some sort of emotional response rather than, Bow Construction. Or I actually had a company called Killingsworth Construction at one point, and, I just, having my name on it is
everybody uses their name and construction or whatever,
Yeah, and that's exactly why I chose something kind of off the wall on the other side.
Well, I tell you, it's pretty neat, because I'm by far, I'll preface this with not a marketing communications expert, but to me, a brand is something that you want people to remember after the fact. You want them wondering,
that's right,
what do those people do?
Yeah.
Like it's not immediately apparent what they do.
Right.
Next thing you know, they're looking at your website.
Yeah.
So it, to me, checks those boxes, man. Pretty cool way to go about it.
Yeah. I appreciate that.
When you became accredited, so all businesses, when they apply, get looked into, and we do what's called a UMAP, basically a background check on the business. And then before it goes to our board, I have to look at all the applications and sign off on them.
Yeah.
And I remember Color Wheel. And I was like, oh, okay, painting contractor.
Yeah.
And I started looking at them like, nope, they're not painting.
Yeah.
You could, right? I mean, you're a contractor, so you could.
We do paint. Yeah.
But you're not a paint company. So it stuck with me ever from that one instance of coming across
awesome.
it. So from an outsider's perspective, I think you did what you wanted to do with it.
Yeah, that's a great story. That's exactly what you want. I think we're a new player. It's nobody knows us, even though we have a lot of customers. Lafayette's a big place. These communities are big places. So that's exactly what I wanted to do for sure. And I think that's a.
So when did Color Wheel start?
About a little over a year ago. A
Oh,
little over a
cool.
year ago.
Okay.
So
All
it's
right.
so it's very new. Like I said, I've been operating in the space for a long time, but I needed a fresh start. I needed a
Sure.
fresh brand and actually start building something. Me and my wife owns Worth Counseling Group.
Okay.
She's a business owner here as well, and it's a counseling center for mental health children, families. Her name's Shelly Killingsworth. We weren't sure if we were going to stay in Lafayette. We didn't know. Like I did business out of state. I have construction licenses in a lot of different areas in South Carolina, in Florida, in Tennessee, all these other areas where are potential business places for us, and we didn't know we were going to stay here, but we kind of in the last year decided this is the one for us.
Well, you probably started eating and realized there was no way to leave,
No,
right?
I started eating a long time ago, man. And I never stopped.
Man, every time we travel or go somewhere, it's like, it's great, it's fun. There's always that aspect of wanting to get home, but I always want to get home and eat.
Yeah,
Because the food is just
I know.
so diverse and so good around here. Sorry to go sideways with that, but
No doubt.
so where do you guys live? In Lafayette or?
We live in It's a Youngsville address,
Okay.
but it's close to Ambassador Caffrey down south. We live down there.
It's grown so much out there, man.
Yeah, it's a really great place. I didn't know. I lived in Lake Charles, lived in Baton Rouge,
Yeah.
and I just passed by Lafayette a million times. I never really gave it the time of day, when I was a younger kid, and then I took that financial advisor job here in I think it was 2015 or late 2014, and I moved here, and my sister had moved here, and I was like, you know what, this is a nice place. This is definitely better than Lake Charles. Some people might Lake Charles is cool, all right, but it ain't
It's
Lafayette.
not Lafayette,
It
huh?
is not even close to Lafayette. And Baton Rouge, super spread out. I was never really interested in New Orleans, and this was kind of the sweet spot, and I learned that over time. But we recommitted to this being, our long-term space because of her business.
Cool.
And that's why I was like, okay, well, now I can settle down, and I didn't want to build a business here or a brand here and then move to Texas or something a year later.
Sure.
I'm committed to this community and staying here long
Yeah.
term. So
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah, no doubt.
Obviously for consumers, know a business is going to be around after the fact. You have a good experience with a business. Unfortunately, you may need your roof repaired again. Then you want to be able to go back to that same business. It did a great job the first time around.
no doubt.
So yeah, Lafayette's a unique area. I worked actually in Baton Rouge for 2 years, and
did?
I was commuting every day, which was pretty horrendous.
Yeah.
Pretty long days when you got quite a long day at the office, and then you're driving. I try to leave about 6:20ish in the morning. Try to avoid the traffic, and then I either left at 4 or left at 6 to come home. It was it was a little different, but the people I met there, great. It's still South Louisiana.
Yeah.
But the community in Baton Rouge, and I might get some flack for this, is not Acadiana.
No, it's
It's
very
not
different.
the same
No.
culture. And I'm from here, Broussard, Youngsville area is where I grew up.
Yeah.
Left for a stint of that with the Marine Corps and different things. But for the most part, I've spent my whole life here, and I just love being in the Acadiana area. It's a unique culture, and there's a lot of unique people.
Well, I've met a lot of people who moved here, and I'm one of them. And I don't know if I'm still waiting to hear one of them that regretted it. They don't. This is a good place. This is a special place here. This is different. It's different than other places. South Louisiana has some good people, no doubt. But Lafayette is it's like the good people are proud of being good people here. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's something different. Same reason that we're talking about it right now in the same fashion we are.
Yeah.
Because not only our general population is good people, generally speaking, but it's something to be proud of here. And I think that pride there, it's a little bit different than other places maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just a different community feel. I tell people that all the time. That if they move here, like it's not going to be New York City. You're not going to get the big time metro feel of Dallas Fort Worth
Right.
or something. But you got everything you need, and there's plenty of positives here to stick around. It's a great place.
So unique story. I talked to a business owner recently that is doing some mortgage stuff on the side. He's retired.
Oh, yeah.
Retired CPA, and he just kind of got into helping out with some mortgage things for a little extra money here and there. And I noticed he's from California.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Interesting.
And he's here, and I said, so how'd you end up, he said, well, I was retired and I met a woman from Gaydon.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now he's living in Gaydon.
Yeah.
So talk about culture shock.
Yeah. That's
his whole professional life, California, now he's in Gaydon. So,
yeah.
but it's such a unique place. And, I'm in a unique position with BBB to be able to serve our community.
No
and
doubt.
It's great meeting businesses that are out there doing the same thing. So in the contracting industry, just from a BBB perspective, it's probably, it's our most reported on, our most inquired about, our most turbulent industry in general, contracting, not necessarily roofing, but just in general. And typically it's because of, a couple different things. People calling themselves contractors that aren't. They don't have any licensing. Even the home improvement registration that doesn't require the competency testing. Yeah. Basically you just show your insurance to the state and pay the fee and you get your registration.
Right. That's correct.
They don't have that. But they know there's a lot of money to be made in it. Mm-hmm. So they're going around telling people they can do things and either not ever doing it. Yeah, truly criminal. Yeah. Or they're not doing a great job and companies like you guys are having to come after the fact. Yeah. And fix it, and for some reason, and this is across the BBB system, there's 98 BBB offices all across the U.S. and the contracting industry is kind of the one with the most accredited businesses, the best businesses that are out there are contractors, and we find some of the worst ones too. Yeah. So what do you see out there, kind of on the street, sleeves rolled up, doing contracting work? What do you see out there as far as that's concerned?
What do you think that 85 to 90% of those complaints is residential construction? Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I'd say residential is hit a lot harder than business.
For sure. Well, I want to preface this by saying that construction, one of the main reasons for this year is that construction is hard, dude. It's hard. It's very, very hard. It's hard to meet expectations with people. It's hard to set those expectations because there's so many things that can happen in the construction process that you can plan for maybe or are unforeseen. And it's very hard to manage those expectations with customers. So I don't know if you thought that I would say that, but that's
I wasn't thinking that.
That's one thing. Okay. That's the overarching thing that is happening here. And what happens, in my opinion, with all these people who want to be contractors is there is a lower barrier to entry into the space. You have to pay some money to get some paper, stuff like that, insurance, but it's a low barrier of entry. You don't have to have a college degree. If you want to do it and hang your shingle out there, you can do that, right? So it's extremely hard. And most of the people that get into it don't really know that. And I was one of them. That's the thing. I was one of them. I was a professional, no doubt. I went to law school. I did all these things. So I understood business. I understood customer service. I understood sales. That's what I did. Right. But I didn't understand how hard it was to meet those expectations, and then it's a competitive environment, and then there's people that will come in and do things for cheaper without all that overhead and legitimate business expenses and tools that you need to actually succeed in that environment. So if you have a truck, and a ladder maybe, and spend a little bit of money, you can probably become a roofing contractor, but to succeed and meet all the expectations necessary, it takes a lot of people, it takes a lot of money, and that's another thing. If you don't have a significant amount of money to be able to operate in the space, you can get into a situation where not only are you hurting yourself, you're for sure hurting yourself, but you're hurting customers as well. So the money aspect of construction is very, very real. And I think that people think that they can operate with very little of it and get people to pay them up front in a larger amount, and it just creates problems in the expectation and throughout the project when unforeseen things happen. I don't know, man. It's a really hard space to operate, and it's even harder to meet expectations and keep a good name for yourself. Sure. Because at the end of the day, integrity and doing what you say is the biggest thing that you can have or choose in a contractor. Right. It's the empathy that your contractor has to not leave you hanging. That's the biggest thing. You know, if I'm hiring somebody, I know how to hire and fire people at this point, subcontractors, and deal in the construction space. It's very different than other places. It's rougher. You're dealing with people who aren't educated, who you have to speak to differently, potentially set different expectations as far as your workforce goes. Very difficult, especially for me, because I didn't come from that world. But yeah, it's just a different business to operate, and it's very.
So that's
hard,
a unique perspective. So, you know, about 80% of our complaints that we get are non-accredited businesses, obviously. So, but you're adding a different, I guess, layer to the conversation.
I advocate all the time because I want people to realize that, because I'm not the contractor that's going to leave you hanging. That's one thing that I didn't finish my point. That's the one thing I'm looking for if I'm hiring somebody that is not going to leave me hanging, somebody that will put their name and brand and reputation ahead of the money.
Sure.
Because you can cut costs and you can pull money out of projects if you want to. If you want to be a crazy person and you don't care and you don't care about your name and you don't care about what happens, you can do that.
And then you've got a lifetime now for this business. How long is it really going to last like this?
Yeah, you open yourself up to a whole nother bag of tricks if you do that, sure. But you can potentially maintain more money in that situation temporarily, until it's ripped back from you in a lawsuit or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's the people that will put their name and brand and reputation and not leave their customer hanging. That's the biggest thing, because at the end of the day in construction, if you pay someone a specific amount of money to perform services on your home or your business, at the end of the day, you may hate the guys. But if they did what they said and they didn't leave you hanging and they finished the job, even if it took longer than it expected, at the end of that day, in my opinion, that's a positive experience. As compared to all of the host of negative things that could have happened.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's actually going right into, what we wanted to cover in this podcast is what is unique about your business. And what I'm understanding is, in a nutshell, we have integrity. If we tell you something we tell you, we're going to do it. And at the Better Business Bureau, that's one of the things, obviously, that we report on. A business's track record in the marketplace is just as important as what the guy's telling you at your house today because you met with him to do a project. What has he been doing for the last couple years out there with everybody else? And a lot of times that can be the differentiator in, well, it's pretty obvious what's going to end up happening with this, or man, he's been treating everybody else right. So, but two things I want to cover based on what you talked about, and this is something we try to impress so much on the community, is what are some of those things you need to look out for in a business, and getting things in writing, which feeds right into, this is what we said we're going to do. We're going to meet those expectations. But for one, cheaper isn't always better.
For sure.
Because a business that is charging you way less, they still at the end of the day want to make money.
Yeah.
So if they're able to charge you that much less, where are they cutting the corners that you're not seeing to be able to charge you less? Now, obviously, competitive pricing. Of course, we always encourage people to get multiple pricing, and typically, the companies that are doing things the right way are probably going to be right around the same area.
Yeah.
The service aspect may be what the differentiator is.
Yeah.
And that seems to be what what you guys pay most attention to, but also what I'm hearing is the communication.
Yeah.
The ability to communicate effectively, precisely on the front end.
Yeah.
So that at the end of the day, they didn't hear just what they wanted to hear, and now you didn't do this, this, and this.
Right.
You know exactly what you're going to receive. That way, the day the project's completed, they're happy with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say communication is another one of those things that is absolutely necessary in any construction project, and it's not just on the front end. It's all the way through. Depending on the project, depending on whether it's a longer term project. If somebody is at your house or we're at your house for 4, 5, 6 weeks potentially doing a large project, or whether it's we're doing your roof in one day. Those are completely different projects, completely different expectations. and completely different customer experiences. Every one of them's different, and that's the thing. Not differentiating, what service is required for different types of projects is something that an unsophisticated person who's just getting into it, just like I was when I first started my business. They don't understand all of those because they haven't seen that or felt the pain of not doing it right. So yeah, communication is a big deal, but again, that one main thing I think is the biggest thing, and it's the guy that's not going to take money and run. I mean, that's the number one thing, doing what you say you're going to do, because at the end
as
of the day,
a business, you're saying for the consumer to look at that, right?
Yes. That's the primary thing, and you mentioned what should they be looking for, potentially when they're looking at these things. In my opinion, it's transparency. And right now, transparency looks different. Transparency is not really telling someone, how the project's going to go. That's not.
Well, you might not know that, right?
Yeah, you might not know it, and you might be mischaracterizing it because you can't see the future, or the project could change. All these kind of things. Transparency is putting out information to show the customers what you're about and how you operate and what your values are. That's the biggest thing, because that's going to answer the question of, is this person going to do right by me? And if you have a group of people who care about those things, and that's their primary focus, you can usually figure that out, not just by Google reviews and other reviews, but other content. Social media content is something that I like to do to try to show people what kind of person I am. And I don't know, there's not a lot of owners of companies or managers or operators that are doing that. And I think that they need to be honest with you, because it all starts with them. They're setting the tone. They're setting the tone with these businesses, and everything comes down from them. So if it's a good piece of fruit there, you know that who you're dealing with, and all of the subcontractors potentially, or workers and things like that, it'll flow through to them. But I think transparency is the biggest thing, and figuring out how much and to what extent these businesses are being transparent with the marketplace is probably the biggest thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's obvious. That's one of the standards that we rate businesses against, to show you how important that is. But also, as a business operating that way, from the consumer perspective, because I don't have a construction business or have any ambitions to, but from a consumer perspective, you're more likely to, you talked about not being able to see the future, and you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know once you rip all that off if something's rotten that you didn't know about, and these things that happen. From a customer perspective, at least as far as I'm considered, I'm much more likely to probably give that business some understanding and grace because of the way they're treating me and operating. Than, well, no, you said in your contract that wasn't going to be an issue. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're more likely to understand where they're coming from because of how they've approached you from the beginning. So I think you're almost setting yourself up for success with these consumers from the front end.
And stuff like that. You really need to be transparent about those possibilities, obviously, on the front end, and it makes things go smoother, because construction's a rocky road. It's very like I said, it's very hard to operate, and you can't see the future a lot of the time. But if you know you're dealing with somebody who's not going to leave you hanging, and has your best interest at heart. Everybody says only focused on the consumer. I'm like, well, you may not have a business that you got to balance all these things.
Yeah, you do, right? You still got to care about the business.
Yeah,
of course.
You got to protect yourself as well. That's a line that I try to do as best I can, is to focus on the customer, but also, not give everything away. We have to operate this business and continue going. I mean, these guys that I have working with me, they've got to put food on the table for their families as well, and it has to be profitable at the same time. So it's a balance, but the better that you can get your customer to understand that you're real people too, and you're not one of those guys that just runs off. They're much more likely to work with you throughout the process and understand that.
So you set these expectations. As far as I know, there's only one of you, right? There's only one Bo.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, you've got.
I don't know.
Everybody's got
Joe
a doppelganger
Rogan's saying
or whatever
a lot
they
of
call
things these days. I don't know. There could be another one somewhere.
But so you're most likely, meetings, setting up these contracts with these consumers, but you can't be the guy there at every project every time.
Right.
So how do you ensure that your subcontractors, or maybe if you have employees, how do you ensure that they're carrying that through?
Yeah.
Once Bo left, and now you're relying on them to do what Bo, set the expectations out.
Yeah. Well, number one, I don't let them in unless I think they're going to do that anyway.
Right.
So I don't put people alongside my existing team members if I don't think that they have that one thing, which is don't leave people hanging, in this business, and have integrity with what they're doing and do what they say. If I don't think that they're going to be like that, I won't put them in the program, if you will.
Sure.
So that's number one. But and I'm a faith-based guy. I'm a Christian, and I try to do everything in line with that, and I try to lead with that, and I try to find other like-minded people to work with because that's who I align with better.
Yeah.
That's part of it, and then it's just general business stuff and checking in with people and making sure people are setting those expectations right and following through, and if they don't, talk to them. It's just general business stuff and checking out those performance indicators of what people are doing and keep the ball rolling.
Yeah, a side note on that, I don't know, probably 15, 20 years ago when everybody had the, WWJD bracelets.
Yeah.
You kind of just look at it and overlook it probably at the same way. But as a mature, I guess, professional, we'll call it, I really kind of just matured like the last couple of years. But, and I really don't have life figured out yet. But I find that a really good question sometimes.
Yeah.
What would Jesus do in this situation? That's going to help me make a decision a lot more easily.
Yeah.
Than how does Chris feel today?
Yeah. That's an interesting point because I asked myself, I don't think Jesus would own operate a construction business like this or something. So I think about that stuff a lot as well. But yeah, I mean, having a tone with that and everything you do, not just business, but thinking about that is the most important.
It's helpful,
thing.
right? It's helpful.
For sure, absolutely.
Now, as we get close to wrapping up, I'll ask you a little bit more about the workforce, because that's what we continue to hear from every business owner. I was meeting with a guy that specializes in making homes accessible for handicap. That's kind of like his niche.
Yeah.
And he's like, I've got so much work and I can't find a guy to come in here that can read a tape measure, much less show up for an interview, Yeah. So how hard has it been really to find those great employees? Have you typically found, Indeed resumes, or you typically kind of word of mouth, get to know people, and I can teach you what I need to teach you. I just need the right kind of person.
Yeah.
What way would you say has worked best for you?
I found them both ways, and I pray to God all the time to just bring people in front of me that I can work with, and I've been blessed to have some really good people, come into the hemisphere, I guess you should say, but I don't know, man. I don't have big crews of people that directly work for me as far as tradesmen goes, that's not really how my business is structured. So I'm not day in and day out trying to find those specific guys that guy is trying to find.
Okay.
I understand that it's very tough for those guys. But I think, I don't know. I mean, the cream always rises to the top, and there's always going to be people that are willing to work at the right price and things like that. I think it's a struggle because small business, big business will raise their prices very quickly, and then they will never basically come back down. You see it across the board, especially after COVID, things like that, right?
Yeah.
But small businesses, if they try to raise their prices, everybody's, knives and pitchforking, to be honest with you. I feel that that's the case a lot of the time, and it just puts a further strain on that situation because, if you have
that ability to hire good people.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, everybody's got to put food on the table, and and prices are going up. I mean, it's a
now let me ask you,
deal.
material cost, has that stabilized, or is that still
it's always going up, man. It's always I to be honest with you, the price of materials, besides the fact that I may have to raise prices or perform better in a different area. I don't care about that stuff. That's not going to be the key to my success. I don't really worry about it. It is what it is. And if I have to charge a little bit more on specific projects, it is what it is.
Well, and if if it's that cost for you, most likely it's that cost for everybody else. So it's not really a differentiator, right?
That's right. That's right. So yeah, everything's getting high. Everything got really high after COVID. Things stabilized and they go up more. I mean, these things, I don't know. I don't think about it at all, to be honest with you. It's just a part of the business, and I just hope that small businesses have the strength and the guts to charge what they should be getting, because at the end of the day, small business is the reason for the proliferation of America. Small business is the backbone of everything we got going on. There's big names that are controlling tons of money, especially insurance companies. They're one of them. They're the richest people in the world. Those companies are the richest companies in the world, and they'll raise their premiums. They'll double them in a year.
So we've experienced locally. I'm actually shopping, for those that may be listening that provide insurance. Our general liability, general liability policy at BBB. We've got a couple different insurances. We have a board of directors, so we've got directors and officers insurance for covering them, and
key people.
Our general liability and building insurance that we have. Well, I just reached out to our board for some suggestions on companies to shop this rate with, because for whatever reason, we have our insurance coverage through an agency in Florida, and we're shopping it locally. It was like that when I started with BBB almost 6 years ago.
Yeah.
We've just continued to renew the same policy.
Yeah.
But 2 years ago, it was X amount.
Right.
It went up about 25%. And then this year, we renew it every year in July. I just got the invoice. It's about 30% more than that.
Yeah.
So it has doubled in 2 years.
Yeah.
Just the premium.
I know.
We've had no claims.
Yeah. Oh, I know. They don't increase claims by claims made. They increase it by area code, by geographic region. One of the things that you got to understand, because one of the biggest things that I personally don't understand with customers that we deal with, that I try to communicate with them, is that your premiums are going to go up or go down based upon many other factors than you filing an insurance claim. And some people are scared to file an insurance claim because they think that their rates are going to go up, and they're just kind of scared. People are scared of filing insurance claims, and I mean, once you get into the business and you understand insurance at a different level, or you see it a lot, you understand that you're paying so much money every year after year after year after year.
Talk about,
you're paying premiums through the nose owning these properties for decades, and then they've created an environment where you're scared to file an insurance claim for legitimately damaged property.
Or we've heard multiple times with just around, through whether it's, homeowners insurance and different things, people can't even get coverage. They're not even allowed to renew. They have to shop. It's like, it's a crazy world.
Yeah. These companies, they've been writing policies in places like Louisiana that are hurricane prone areas. And they've been making billions of dollars with a B in these areas for years and years and years. And then you have a couple of catastrophic hurricanes in 2020 to 2021. And then they just pull out. They made,
now they're not here.
They made billions of dollars in premiums. And then they got a little taste of a loss for 1 year, if it even is, and then they just
now bail, they won't provide coverage.
And then they get the legislation involved to help them create a more difficult claim environment for people to get money legitimate insurance claims. And man, I don't know if we want to go down this dark road, but I don't have a lot of good things to say.
Well, we're wrapping up the podcast. Luckily,
good for you.
Before it gets dark.
I could blow it up, But the point is, the claims environment is tough, and that was just an example to highlight big business increasing prices when small business is hesitant to do so, and even consumers are hesitant to pay those higher prices to their neighbors. It's not a great thing, and I think that's a real thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a difficult claims environment, and there's a lot going on with insurance right now and in claims, and certainly if you have any questions about that, I might be a guy to consult with.
Yeah. Well, and I would say, not many contractors or construction companies have that kind of in-house knowledge of the insurance game. So it's probably a good thing for a consumer that may be knowing they're going to be claiming whatever project on insurance to consult you guys as part of that.
Yeah.
Kind of an all-in-one package. So, Bo, as we're wrapping up, it's been great to get to know you and Color Wheel and what you guys are doing. For one, thank you for being on the podcast. But the last thing I like to ask, and it's a stumper for some people, and I've already learned some things about you I didn't know, but what's one thing you would say people don't know about you before we wrap this up? And if you want to go with the law school, and that was a pretty big surprise for me. So or one thing you want them to know that maybe they don't know, or something along those lines.
That is a stumper, man. It is a stumper. I would say probably what I would tell people in the interest of being raw is that, if anybody's watching my content or something and thinks that I have it all figured out or anything like that, it's just like you said. You were very transparent on that a moment ago. I was surprised to hear you say, I'm still figuring it out. Things like that. It was refreshing to hear, and I'm the same way. I go up and down as well. I have mental health issues just like a lot of other people, and entrepreneurship or owning your own business exacerbates that and squeezes it to its limit, to be honest with you. And it's a struggle for me every day to deal with the ups and downs. I put myself in these positions to try to grow and get the most out of my life and change into something that I'm proud of all the time. And this is just me trying to do that. I'm not God's gift to construction or any of this stuff. I'm just a guy trying to get the most out of my life and trying to grow through it. But I do have those issues as well, those mental health issues. And I just don't want anybody to see this, because you talk to a lot of business people, probably people who are much more successful than me. And then they look at that and think that it's unattainable or have a skewed view of it.
Sure.
And I think that's what I would tell people, is that I'm just that's it. I mean,
I'm just here trying to make it happen too, right?
Yeah, I'm just out here trying to create a better life for myself and my family, and I have the same struggles as everyone else. So
there you go.
You can do it. You can do all of these things and battle all that. It's not easy, but it's worthwhile to do it, because you grow a lot. But
that's great advice, man. We're all just, to make you feel a little better too. We're all just students of the game.
Yeah.
And I think that game in general is just life, and it's tough. There's a lot of tough parts of it, but we're all here just trying to make the most of it and help each other along the way. So
no doubt.
Appreciate you being on the show, man. Joining everything with us, being raw with us.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you guys for, obviously you being an accredited business and doing good things in the community as well.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me, Chris. It's been
Absolutely,
nice.
Man.
Appreciate
it, man.
Okay. Thank you.
I really hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you so much for joining us. To help support the show, please like, share, follow us on whatever podcast application, or even on YouTube, wherever you caught this episode at. If you want to find out more about the Better Business Bureau, you can contact us, 337-981-3497. You can find us on social media, BBB Acadiana. And as always, you can go to bbb.org for any information you're looking for. See you next time. Thank you so much for joining us.